Hello, and welcome to another episode of Daggerheart DM Pocket Guides from the Pocket Dimension. I'm AK.
And I'm Matt.
So we're going to kick this off today. We had we decided to go a little bit meta with this today, didn't we? We have been putting out these videos for a couple of months now, believe it or not, and are getting some really great questions about Daggerheart in general and GMing specifically. And one of the questions that came through was, could we go into a little bit more detail about countdowns in Daggerheart? Yeah. There's several different ways to handle a countdown. What you're going to come across most often is you're going to use a die. So if you're playing on a virtual tabletop, I tend to just put like a big square with the number on the VTT. Of course, if you are lucky enough to be playing in person with your friends, you could just plunk any of your Ds down on the table. So if you want to count down to 6, use a D6, D8, 10, 12, on up. So that's kind of thing number one. Thing number two with countdowns is it is in yours and your party's best interest for you to let your party know that you are initiating a countdown. You don't have to tell them what it's for. In fact, sometimes it's better if you don't, isn't it, Matt?
That's right. Oh, yes. And I was going to add that, of course, the countdown clock is not absolutely unique to Daggerheart, but one countdown clock that I have used in Blades in the Dark is really neat because you can actually also just do a little pie graph and
yes,
fill in.
So you can kind of see
fun.
like
that's a fun way to do it.
A quarter is gone, half is gone, 3/4. Ooh, yeah, I like that. Yeah. So when we talk about countdowns, we're less talking in minutes of gameplay and more in like actions that relate to what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So as I mentioned before, the big thing is to use some kind of die. So we're going to put ourselves into a countdown today to basically judge how many of your beautiful questions that you've submitted that we're going to get through. Will this be a short episode or a long episode? The dice are going to decide. So the main thing is you decide what's the thing that's activating the countdown. Is there a certain story beat that you have to get to, meeting an NPC, arriving at a location, popping off a spell? The next thing that you're going to want to think about is what is going to advance that countdown. So is it going to be tethered to player roles, player moves, NPC moves? Again, you kind of get to use your own imagination to create what activates it, what advances it. And then finally, when the countdown, whether you can choose to, if you're counting up or down, I tend to go down. So if I'm putting a D6 on the board, then it would go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, smash. But what happens at the end of that countdown? So that's one big thing to keep in mind. And what I just kind of went through is the standard countdown. But of course, Daggerheart has to make things even more free-flowing and fun. So there are dynamic countdowns, which can be a lot of fun. And so you can think about dynamic countdowns as either progress countdowns that are working in favor of your PCs or consequence countdowns where maybe something's going to fall down, go boom at the end of that countdown. That's a consequence countdown. As far as our dynamic countdowns go. So if you look in it starts on your core rule book on page 162, goes through all the different countdowns and has a nice little table for you on page 163. Or if you're checking out the SRD, it's on page 69. Nice. And so the difference with the standard countdown is standard is just much more like every time somebody makes a move, something along those lines, we're ticking down or up. Whereas dynamic is going to base it more on the player roles. So players rolling with hope and fear might say no advancement at all if they rolled with fear, or they rolled, we're going to tick it down 3 times or 2 times or 1 time.
That's really helpful. Yeah, that's really helpful, AK, because I know that people who use countdowns in something like 5th edition that has an initiative system kind of slot the countdown in initiative, right?
Order.
So because Daggerheart doesn't have such a thing, fear is always there for you and other ways to make it more dynamic and make sense. And like you said, it doesn't have to be the end doesn't have to be an event, right? Like the other day I had a countdown for a ritual. It's not that we wanted to stop the ritual necessarily, but we did need to know when to act at a certain point in that ritual. So you can use them a whole ton of ways.
A whole ton of ways. So while we've been
Clocks is
talking
fun.
here, we had countdown die on the board at 6. So we're just going to go back and forth rolling to see how quickly we're going to advance through this countdown.
Okay.
Matt, do you want to roll first? And for the purpose of that, we didn't set a difficulty for this. We're just going to say that fear advances it and hope keeps it still. So right now we are at 6.
Okay.
6.
Okay, and I just rolled, a 10 with fear.
Okay, so we're going to advance that countdown, and now we are at 5 as we dive into our first question. We are going to go to our buddy San Jacinto Art Guild, who always leaves the kindest, nicest, loveliest comments on our videos, and we just appreciate them so much.
Yeah.
But we also appreciate being called out when we need to be, and sometimes we need to be. And this was one such example. A couple of videos ago, San Jacinto Art Guild said, the actual death moves felt slightly glossed over, but everything else was awesome. I love the compliment sandwich you put us in there. We appreciate a compliment sandwich. I believe it was our last video. We just kind of like breezed through the death mechanics. So let's get a little nerdier with them and just make sure that everybody's on the same page. And Matt and I have said this before, time and time again, that death moves are something in Daggerheart. It feels so personal. It gives the player so much agency, and it gives the GM some really fun ways to like spice things up. So in Daggerheart, when a player character, death moves are different for adversaries, but this is for player characters. When one of your PCs marks their final hit point, I do want to note, it does not matter if they still have stress or armor left. So it's a good resource management exercise for players to maybe go through their armor first, because I've had that happen to me in game where I marked my last hit point and I still had armor slots left. So
Or whoops. Right.
And I was like, nothing, I'm dead. So there are 3 options to choose from in Daggerheart. So we'll kind of go through each of these. Matt, feel free to ask me if you have any questions specifically, but starting with avoid death. So avoid death is the one where the PC is going to choose to avoid death, but they are going to potentially face some kind of consequence. So typically speaking, narratively, what you'll do is you will describe how they drop unconscious on the battlefield. Maybe there can be some kind of RP around what the party will do to protect them so they don't take further hits. If anybody in the party does have a way to heal them, there is a chance that they could come back from avoiding death in that manner. Otherwise, as the GM, give them something to do. Maybe they could start to play an NPC, maybe even one of the adversaries or otherwise. That way they're not just kind of sitting there for the rest of the session. And the biggest thing with avoiding death is that they can't move, but they'll return to consciousness when an ally clears one or more of their hit points, or there's an ability for a rest. But there is something where you can roll your hope die, and if its value is equal to or under your character's level, you take a scar. And when you take a scar, you permanently cross off one of your hope slots. Spicy.
Yeah. So in some ways, that's the most 5th edition's death saves, right?
Yeah.
But with a very fun. I mean, I think the scar is fun.
I think the scar is
It doesn't
fun.
have to be an actual scar, though. That's cool too, right?
Yep.
It could be an emotional scar.
It could be an emotional scar. And again, this is back to the agency is on you. You describe, with losing that hope permanently, what happened to you and why. And is it, to your point, Matt, a physical scar or an emotional one that you will carry with you for the remainder of the campaign?
What keeps the PC at that moment from just popping up?
Healing.
It's just healing, right? So it has nothing to do with your death saves. You are just
there are no
you are
death
just
saves.
Done unless somebody can heal you.
Absolutely. And so then that's exactly the mechanic, is that you are down until we can to get a rest, to get some healing in. Or if you do have an ally that does have some kind of healing ability, there is a chance there, if you chose avoid death, that you could come back up in that same battle. But it's not based on death moves. It's based on resources, which I feel like you might like a little bit more, Matt.
I like that so much more.
Matt doesn't like death in 5e.
I don't like the poppin'. I don't like the poppin' fresh dough.
I'm dead.
I don't like the.
I'm back. I'm dead.
I don't like
I'm
the whack-a-mole, right?
Yeah.
The whack-a-mole of 5e death.
There's no mole whacking in Daggerheart. You heard it here first. So that is avoid death. And we tend to see that one a lot, like in earlier times in the campaign or in one-shots, because it's not very much fun if you kind of come out, especially in like an early encounter and you're just gone. Avoiding death helps you continue to be part of the party. Excuse me, I got so excited about that. The second one is, in the book, it's called Risk It All. Here in the pocket dimension, we call Risk It for the Biscuit.
Yeah.
And this is the one that you are leaving up to fate. This is the one where what you're going to do is you're going to roll your hope and your fear die. And if hope rolls higher, you are alive. And if fear rolls higher, see you later, bye. See you later, bye.
Yeah.
It's pretty cut and dry, though.
50-50.
Right?
Yeah.
So
what happens if you do pop back up in this situation?
Oh, that's a really great question. So if your hope die rolls higher, you can clear an amount of both stress and hit points up to that amount. One thing I forgot to mention, crit clears all stress and all HP on a critical, on a Risk It for the Biscuit. And yeah, you are, it's insta death. If your fear rolls higher, there's nothing you can add to this roll. There's not anything you can modify. You're not going to be able to take advantage. It is your duality dice, and that's it. It's you and one single roll of the dice to determine the fate of your character. It's really fun.
It's really fun.
And the final one that I love so much is known as the Blaze of Glory. And so this is certain death. Whatever it is that you are about to do next is going to be your final move here in this mortal coil on the material plane, or whatever plane it is that you're playing in, right? And so you work with your GM to describe some kind of sick, slick, automatic move against who and whatever it is you're fighting, and it's an automatic crit. And as a GM, this is where I'm going to say, oh my God, give your player the spotlight. Like whatever it is that they are trying to do in this moment, if they choose Blaze of Glory, I want you to amplify that. I want you to pour it on so super thick, because if they are willing to give their character in that way, it usually means dire straits and ultimately might be the thing that could save other PCs or the world at large because of their sacrifice.
The whole battle. And I personally think that in those situations, most rules should be bent. If the creature's just a little bit too far away, I mean, just go for it, man. You want movie style,
cinematic,
super cinematic,
yes.
superhero. Blaze of Glory, and then the character's dead.
And then they're dead. And then no more. And then give them that moment too. Describe how they pass across the veil and the last thoughts that they have and the first thing that they do from the other side and things like that. They don't have to just be sat out for the remainder of the session if you don't want them to be. It's having gone out in a blaze of glory, it is so satisfying and fun. I'm not saying it's always the right choice, but when done well and with a GM who's willing to play in return, oh, I love it so much.
It kind of changes. It has the ability possibly to change your players' views on character death, really, especially in a shorter game. But it's my, it's my fave.
Yeah. So San Jacinto Art Guild and others who felt that we just kind of went bloop, hand wave. I hope that slightly deeper dive. And just like everything else we've ever covered with Daggerheart, make it up. You're in control. This is meant to be collaborative and fun. So work with your PCs in the moment where they might be marking their last hit point to really just add to that drama and fun for everybody at the table while also spotlighting the one who it affects the most.
Yep.
All right, I guess it is my turn to roll
them.
I got these. These are the 10-year anniversary.
Show us
special set. Oh, I love them so much. They are so pretty. I didn't get these while at Gen Con But thankfully they were on the crit roll shop, and
One of them looks like a cocktail with Disaronno or something.
Yeah. So I rolled fear as well. So the countdown is going down to 4. So let's tee up the next question.
Okay.
Okay, this one's one I wanted to clarify. Our dear friend Rabbit left a comment on one of our recent videos of something, again, that we get excited on here. I get excited on here. I can't throw Matt under the bus with me. And, we start talking fast and some things get a little fuzzy. So Rabbit said, isn't it on a player roll or failure with fear when it passes to the GM? Can't they do a basic attack with a critter for free? Isn't it that it costs fear for fear moves or to spotlight another baddie? So the context of this is, in one of our recent episodes, I said to Matt, you have to have fear to take GM moves. Like, the end. I gave a very absolute answer in a very flexible system, and I would like to mea culpa that now, please, if you wouldn't mind. Technically, yes. Yeah. The moves pass back to the GM, and it does not matter if my fear bowl is empty if a player rolls with fear or fails. Those are the two situations. So if they roll with fear, it's pretty easy because remember we talked about, like, I take and I hold that token in my hand. But let's say that they fail, but with hope. So that hasn't technically generated a new fear token for me, but the player's intended move did fail. In that instance, I've never personally run into that. I'm just going to be honest with you, which is why I think I was really quick to say, no, you always have to have fear. But in an instance where I've already spent all of my fear, the play turns back to my players, a couple, maybe there's a couple successes with hope, and then a player fails with hope, and I still have no fear, I could use that moment to basically make one, we'll call it a freebie move.
Right.
Did I make that clear as mud?
Clear as mud. It is a very edge case.
It is an edge case. And it's also hard, like, I shouldn't have spoken in absolute terms, is what it boils down to, because really you're going to let the vibe of the table lead you into what happens next.
Right.
So what has typically happened for me is when a player fails with hope, I use the hope to say, like, okay, you missed, however, and maybe I'll call on another player and say, Matt's character saw you swing and miss, so what do you step in and do? And that is how I would kind of like let the hope continue to drive us forward. And that's the beauty of Daggerheart, is that it's going to vary table to table. So I just don't want anybody watching this to worry about, like, did I handle this the right way or the wrong way? Because the way that you and your table did it is the correct way.
It's not that kind of game. So no, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Back to you. Let's see if our countdown stays or advances.
Oh boy. Oh, that is wow. That is a 12 critical roll right there.
Oh, you crit.
12s. Yes.
Amazing. Well, then I'm going to let you choose. Does the countdown advance, or does it hold at 4 for now?
Yeah, let's live with a little bit of hope for a second.
Let's live with a little bit of hope for a second. I love that.
Why don't we? Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Great.
I have a feeling this is going to be a great question for you, Matt, because this is where you shine as a GM. Our good friend, Boxiest Llama, hands down, the boxiest of all the llamas, wanted to know, would love some advice geared towards how to apply rulings over rules, house rules, and a deeper what it means to follow the fiction and the basic effective home brewing as a GM in Daggerheart. Any thoughts from you?
Oh, man. So here is the beauty of Daggerheart. And again, I am on your level. I have not run a ton of games in Daggerheart myself yet. But from what I know, and I have learned from my friend AK, this is the game if that kind of concept appeals to you. If you have been playing 5th edition and you have spent a lot of your time as a 5th edition GM wanting to add your own rules to that game and wanting to play a game that isn't rules lawyered to an inch of its life. Not saying that's a bad thing. It's just that is the way you like to play.
Yes.
Following the fiction is trying to find the storyline in something, don't worry about the side quests that may be distracting, that you're really trying to, like, if a player wants to do something.
Yeah.
And this is relayed to you as a game master. You're going to try to do whatever you can to allow that player to get what they want, right?
Yeah.
That's what Follow the Fiction means to me. That's what Daggerheart is.
Yeah.
That's what it is at its core. You've got a set of rules, and they're extensive. It's not a rules light game. There are extensive mechanics to this game.
Yeah.
But they're all a little bit loosey-goosey, right? They're a little bit vague. There is room for discussion, which is what this game wants you to do, is to discuss at the table. It is really a game that is meant to be watched, because your players and you as the game master are really trying to tell a story, not just in a span of months or years, but tonight. Like, what could you tell this piece of what is this chapter just tonight, or this page? What is that?
Yes.
That's what Daggerheart's all about, Boxyist. So if, again, tons of people do not care for that amount of freedom, and that is A-okay, because there's plenty of games for you if you don't like that. But Daggerheart is very specifically that kind of game.
I can give a little anecdote. I got to run Daggerheart at Gen Con, which meant that I was interacting with lots and lots of strangers, which is new and daunting and different. Thankfully, I had the best tables and the best people playing at my tables. But I clearly had all levels of TTRPG experience, from I played a million to like, I'm pretty new to this space. And I had a couple of players who they would see what others were doing with their characters, and they would want to do something like that with their own. It was my job as the GM to, like, you want to keep things fair, right? It's not a free-for-all. Everybody can't do everything they want all the time. But to follow that spirit of fun, which is why those players were asking, and help them reflavor. So, for instance, we had a Qatari ranger in this. And so the Qatari gets to make, like, a claw bite attack. Because they're a cat, they're a feline, right? And so I forget what class this player was playing, but they didn't have that accessible to them. But they were trying to say, like, oh, well, if the cat gets to claw, they were playing a fairy, and they had skinned their fairy as an insect that might sting something. So, I had to explain, hey, the Qatari can do a claw attack, but I'd love it if you wanted to, like, flavor one of your weapons to actually be a stinger attack. That way the game stays balanced. There's a sense of fairness. I don't feel like I'm taking something away from the Qatari, but I'm listening to the player's intent, which is guacamole is extra, flavor is free. And I want to sprinkle something really tasty in this moment. Thank you to our good friend Ty Salas for that. So I think that's how we handle to your point, it's not that it's rules light, it's that it's more mechanics light, but there are rules in place. There is a lot of thought has been put into the balance of it. But that's how you kind of steer into the whole rule of cool, rulings over rules and things like that, is you listen to the intent behind what your players are saying and follow that fiction to give them the experience that they want without breaking the game. Amazing question. Boxy Llama. All right, I guess it is my turn to roll.
Okay, what you got?
I crit. I got 2 Tims. I got 2 Tims.
Wow.
I'm going to be
What's your
hardcore, though.
choice?
You were nice.
Do
you
it.
said, hold. I'm going to advance that countdown. We're down to a 3, my friends.
Yeah.
We're down to a 3, and with this one, we're really getting into some crunch, and I love it. So, Zelak PR7PU asked, I love saying these names out loud.
Per7Pu.
My players are wargamers generally. Should our beefiest PC do all the fighting and others just buff or watch him? Is this an issue? Is it a valid tactic? Are we playing the game wrong?
That's really great questions. I'm sure that you have feelings about this, Allison, but I just finished running the game The Witcher by R. Talsorian Games. And it is, I wouldn't say a polar opposite of Daggerheart, but it is most definitely a very mechanic heavy game, a very crunchy. It's a crunchy game. And again, this is a game for people that love the minutia of tactical play, right?
Yeah.
The Witcher is, of course, a TTRPG based on the books, the television show, and the video games of concerning The Witcher. It is a beautiful book of lore, and it does not shy away. It does not deviate from that lore. There's enormous amount of history and politics and other things in this book, and there are two classes that do far, far more damage to any monster that you run into, and that is the Witcher and the Mage. Okay. And if anybody knows anything about the Witcher, that's the way that works, right? Witchers are the monster hunters. Everybody else is just going to die, basically. They're paying the Witcher. But you don't have to play a Witcher or a Mage. You can play a Carpenter. You can play a bunch of characters that are not a thief. A number of them. Okay. I would say, once again, you could apply that feeling in Daggerheart if you'd like, because, and this is where I brought this up, is that in The Witcher, it fits the game, it fits the lore. It is rulings over rules, and it's most definitely following the fiction being the world of The Witcher. And if your players are war gamers and they have set up their characters to take these roles, the characters that buff, the characters that are good, the face, or and there's one character that just sits around and kicks ass, that is totally up to you in this game. It's 100% up to you. Are the other players happy with this? That's really the question that you need to be asking. Are they okay with sitting around or sneaking around and just healing everybody? If they are, then go.
And I think the intent behind both this comment, and I've talked to others who feel the same way, when you have a group and you each have your roles, there are other things that others are doing. So I'm going to buff the guy who's wailing. I'm going to heal the guy who's tanking and taking the hits. And if that's the case, there is no, and the whole, I mean, we've talked about this before too, like a strong session 0, like create a place for your players where they can either say to the party, or at the very least come to you as a GM and say, not having any fun because so-and-so is taking the spotlight the whole time. So anything that you can do to prevent that. But if the whole table is in agreement that this is our heavy hitter and this is our big tank, and the rest of us are just going to kind of be on the fringe and buff, but then maybe there's, just as a GM, make sure that you're giving environmental encounters in other ways that the rogue can sneak and pick and disguise, and, the bard can bargain, and all of these different things, just to make sure that you are giving every player that time in the spotlight. It doesn't have to all be in one combat.
I'm going to add just a little bit more as you were talking, because it made me think about these games that I played with in The Witcher, which, again, is not my game necessarily. It is a little bit too complicated. There is for me, right? But I will say that in the games that I played, my players really did what you just said. They really worked together. In fact, strangely, it actually inspired collaboration. It inspired a sense of working together, because the two main hitters in the middle of where they were taking all the hits, they were doing all the damage. But the other players that could not get hit, they should not get hit. They would be killed immediately. They were doing all manner of things.
They wouldn't have sexy death moves because it's not Daggerheart.
Right, in The Witcher, exactly. So they really, really had to watch out. The whole concept of it made me want to take this beautiful book by R. Talsorian, The Witcher TTRPG, and convert it to a campaign frame in Daggerheart, because it's so well done. The feeling was so well done, and you could do that. You could have that game in Daggerheart.
So, stamp of hell yes, you heard it here first. Matt and AK of the Pocket Dimension say Daggerheart is a game for war gamers.
Yeah, man.
Are we standing behind that strongly? Bring it.
We're probably going to get a lot of
We're going to get
a lot of questions for that, but yeah, I stand by it. Sure, why not?
We stand by. I'd love to hear if you do have a wargaming type table. I want to hear more, but we absolutely. Sure. I was being funny a second ago, but I'm interested in you trying it out, and reporting back to us. But no, the short answer to your question, amidst all of our many well-earned, hard-fought opinions, is that you are not playing this game wrong, if that is how your entire table. And there are ways, and we can go into this in future episodes, of if you don't have that explicit agreement on how you can share the balance with other people, if you happen to just have a couple players who want to hit hard, but everybody else wants to play too.
In fact, I would like to say that I was actually playing The Witcher wrong. I was actually forgetting a lot of mechanics. That's playing it incorrectly. You can't do that with Daggerheart. Anyway, next.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead and roll that beautiful beam footage for us, please.
This is a 9 with hope.
Okay, so we are staying put at 3. We have a pretty easy question that I think we can knock out pretty quickly here. Our good pal Richard Dotson says, Overthinker here, do we need hope and fear for every roll? No. You're going to want to know what it is because, again, if it is hope, your players need to mark hope on their character sheets. If it's fear, you need to add that to your fear bowl tracker, whatever it is you're using. But especially in combat, you do not have to put the brakes on every single time to say, and this is what happens next. It's like the example that we gave earlier with if somebody fails but with hope, the hope can be the next player acts, and you don't have to describe that in great detail. That doesn't feel good for you and your table, don't do it. If it feels great and you want a soliloquy every time somebody rolls, also fine. You're never playing the game wrong if it feels good for you and your table.
Yep.
Hills I Will Die On by Alice Nelkin. Ooh, man, I'm getting the high rolls in here, but that was an 11 on my fear and a 10 on my hope.
Dun, dun, dun.
And then there were 2. So our buddy Tanya at Tanya's Self-Indulgent Art 3847, another commenter.
Art.
Yeah, we love to see your comments. Always brighten our day. Says, I would like to hear from you about your experience with solo enemies. Today's Reddit post, man, Daggerheart blowing up Reddit, and we love to see it. Made a great point. All the fights in Daggerheart lean more towards solo plus minions, but sometimes the story requires the big bad evil guy to be alone. It's a really thoughtful question. I will just readily admit I don't have enough experience to answer this in an absolute way, the way I have kind of jumped on some other answers before. I see what you're saying. I have definitely piloted BBEG's solo before. For me, it is more fun to have minions or something else in the mix. Because otherwise, what's to stop you from, like, the players all having one thing to pile on? It tends to be a pretty short, over, and you want to, like, amp up the drama and kind of play with your meal kind of a thing. I will remind everybody that in Colossus of the Drylands, you build these colossi, and each zone of the Colossus has a different thing. Well, that's technically a solo. It's just a solo where the right arm is acting different from the left arm. The left arm is different from the chest cavity. So that's, that's a big bad evil guy who is acting alone. But it comes down to balance, right? And so you can kind of rewind what I just said about it could be a short fight if you want it to be. You have a battle guide. You have the battle points to spend. So if you're thinking about a solo adversary being the only thing that the party is going to encounter, make sure you build them right. So I believe the formula is 3 times the number of PCs. And so take that battle guide and use that to make sure that you've got the right amount of hit points, stress, and that you really fine tune some of those fear moves and some of those actions and abilities that you're going to give that BBEG to make it satisfying. I don't think we need to belabor combat in Daggerheart and make it the entire session. In fact, one of the best parts of it is that combat doesn't have to be the entire session. But you want it to be spicy enough to be fun, and then maybe at the end, the bad guy flees and, the campaign continues because now we're chasing, we know something. Tying things back to countdowns, maybe you don't have minions per se, but maybe you have some kind of either short or long-term or dynamic countdown running. All kinds of things that you could be doing that's not just hand-to-hand combat.
I would point you, just for inspiration, because it's not the same system, but one of the neatest books on monsters I think that's come out this year is the Dungeon Dudes Monsters of Drakkenheim, where they effectively replace D&D 5e's legendary actions with what they call epic actions, and you need to support them to learn exactly what that is. But basically, the idea is think about your question. What can you do to keep your PCs challenged, even if it's just one big old monster? It's a really, really neat idea. And the best thing about Daggerheart, of course, is that it urges you to build your own monsters. It urges them all to be different, and it's relatively easy to do. So borrow things.
In 5e, I am not the home brewer that you are, Matt. I just take it out of the book, and that's that. Daggerheart, to your point that you just made, makes it so much fun to make your own adversaries. I always, I will go choose okay, I know I want a tier 4, tier 2, and I will reskin just, again, to help me guide that balance since I'm not a home brewer by nature. But it's fun.
Yeah.
So, love that. Amazing. Okay. We're gonna see. I'm gonna see if are we going to defeat the big bad evil guy, which is the list of questions, or are we gonna not? So it's your turn to roll. It's your turn.
Oh, it is my turn. Yeah. Okay.
See what
and that is another crit.
Oh my gourds! So your dealer's choice.
Weird. I'm gonna knock that
down.
That clock down another notch.
All right, this is going to be very interesting because we're coming to the point where the next roll will determine do we get through the list or not.
Yeah.
So at Rick Procure 6321, says, how do you deal with exploration? Using the duality dice and storytelling, exploration is a core pillar. So as my party wanders through the forest, I don't want to just do a cutscene, but more use Daggerheart's spirit to enhance that moment. I feel like you just need to be empowered, Rick. You know the answer to this question. The main thing about Daggerheart, and we've covered this in other videos, is that every roll is tied to a meaningful action. So it's not quite so hollow as I walk into a room, what do I see? Roll perception. Is that person lying to me? Roll insight. Can I pick this lock? Etc. So on and so forth. But that doesn't mean you can't roll. And if you know your party best and think, I want to really create. So what I would say to do is include some countdowns, make the environment, you're not actively fighting it. You don't have to look at it as an adversary. Keep in mind in Daggerheart, one of the coolest, and I have not gotten to play around with this nearly enough yet, but there is a social adversary type that is there for role playing. It is not there to beat up. So figure out what NPCs and what environments and what senses you can tickle and all of those different things. But absolutely, there are going to be moments where you're going to need to call for instinct rolls and for presence rolls and knowledge rolls. And maybe even as you're navigating the environment, your strength and your agility and your finesse rolls. There's plenty of opportunities for that. So please don't let anything I have said in a previous video scare you away. And I think I've been above board on this the whole time. I am a dice gremlin. I love my dice. I love rolling them. I love touching them. I love showing them to you. So don't let us rob you and your players of that. Just, because the hope and the fear will. So if you know that we need to go in this direction and this needs to happen, and you're going to call for a roll, just be open, be flexible. Don't be married to that outcome. Because the dice gods may not smile on you.
I would think you could really have a lot of fun with a hex map in this, where you assign I love the countdown idea, but you assign directions based on your players' roles.
Yeah.
What would be fateful? What would be fearful? What would be...
And yes, and to that, to kind of close the loop on this countdown episode within an episode, the one countdown that I didn't talk about at the very beginning when we were talking about all the different countdown types, well, technically two. Number one is there are long-term countdowns at play in Daggerheart, usually advanced by something like a short or a long rest, but also much like XP could be gained in other systems, could be advanced by like hitting certain beats, moments, meeting somebody. So, you know, like I'm going to just hold this long-term countdown until they run across this wizard at the Citadel, you know, and then that is going to advance that long-term countdown, and things like that. So all sorts of ways to play with that. So, all right, the next dice roll will determine if we answer the final question or if we save it for next time, and I hope that you will load us up with some more questions, everybody. Right down in the comments of this. So Maddie keeps critting. I've gotten one crit.
Yeah.
You've had two crits.
You did, yeah.
I don't like that I am losing to Matt in the crit game. So let's see if I can match
crit game today. I got a
match that. Nope, I sure didn't. But I did roll with hope. I rolled a 9 on my fear. I'm sorry, I rolled 9 on my hope and 1 on my fear. Fear did not win today. We won. So the countdown explodes at this point because we reached our final question, which is from our dear B-Lynn. Do you guys get together to highlight and color your hair? You have to ask an unserious question every now and again.
And they meant it with absolutely no snarkiness. They made
Correct.
sure to say, I wish. The answer is I wish. But no, in fact, we live in 2 different cities. But that could always change because I did actually get together with
Fitz?
Our friend Fitz. And we went to the salon together. That was fun. So it is when she was visiting Chicago. So it is a possibility.
Matt and I do tend to...
It's a dream.
We tend to set our appointments at the same time, not meaning to. It'll be like, oh, I'm not going to be around this afternoon. I have a hair appointment. It's like, wait, so do I. Which is cute.
Yes.
But we usually don't talk about what we're doing.
No.
Because Matt, you do more. Mine's purple. You go and do different things.
I love my stylist.
I love my stylist. Shout out to Emily at Established Hair Studio in Charlotte and
Sadie at Celestine Hair in Chicago, Illinois.
Celestine.
Sadie is unafraid, and every single time I go and sit down on that chair, I say, "Have at it."
Would
Sadie.
you and Sadie be open to a randomized dice table to determine your next hair color scheme?
200%.
Great.
200%. That would be amazing.
We'll see you next time on the Pocket Dimension when Matt unveils his dye-fueled...
Roll for hair color.
I will not. I am a no to that, I am sorry to say. I'm not adventurous enough to put my fate in.
Oh, man, that would be cool. Now, of course, you know, you don't want to offend anyone. You want to kind of play within a color wheel, but there are so many options, right? You could get some good stuff.
I would let the dice determine my hairstyle before I would let it determine my hair color. So we could play like the luck rolls for like bangs or no bangs, like layers or no layers, how many inches come off, like all of these different things. I'd do that. All right.
Dice
we love all of y'all's questions, even ones about our hair. We have met some of the coolest people IRL and through the magic of the internet because of Daggerheart and so many other cool things we get to do. So thank you, Matt, for being part of my countdown challenge today. I hope that provided a little bit of clarity on advancing some countdowns in Daggerheart. I hope we clarified some things we explained poorly or not at all, and started to explore some new topics. So keep feeding these monsters. We're hungry for your Daggerheart questions. Ding. And we'll see you next time.
Until next time.
Arrivederci, everybody. Meow, meow.